since he was connected to the Duke. Hearing that, the man turned to her in surprise. But suddenly the teaching director stepped forward through swirling white energy. He said it was better that the troublemaker was gone, because the Solar Academy existed to train real elites, not to give out empty positions. The director then explained that a mission had been issued from above. Once He Xiao was found, he must be killed on sight. He asked if the two officers understood. The woman hesitated, and asked what they should do if He Xiao was already dead. The director looked away, and said that maybe He Xiao had changed his appearance. So anyone who used necromancer skills, he said coldly, would be wiped out completely. Meanwhile, in the mission hall of the Extraordinary Academy, many students gathered under the bright lights. A glowing blue portal floated behind the podium, casting light across the room as students chatted and waited. Then suddenly that pink-haired teacher came out of the portal, and stood at the podium and began announcing the mission. She stated that the re-examination task required all new students to clear a level 5 special dungeon called the Magic Horned Beast Lair, located outside the city. She also announced that the time limit for the mission was only 3 hours. Hearing her, the crowd in front reacted with shock. Some students panicked, saying they were only level 4 or 5, wondering how they could possibly finish such a dungeon in such a short time. One boy asked if anyone could actually do something that difficult. Another said grinding down the final boss might be possible, but completing everything within 3 hours seemed too hard. The pink-haired instructor smiled calmly. She told them that they were not required to clear it solo. She explained that they were allowed to form parties, but each team could not exceed 5 members. After forming a group, they had to return and register their starting time. Hands immediately shot up throughout the hall. Some shouted that their team of 4 needed one strong frontline warrior. Others called out that they were elemental mages with explosive damage. A girl introduced herself as Zhao Nanyang, and asked if any strong seniors would be willing to carry her. Among the lively crowd, Fen stood off to the side. Carrying his backpack, he looked down at a glowing system screen in front of him, reading the mission details displayed on it. While Fen was standing quietly, suddenly a pair of red high-heeled boots stepped toward him. Fen lifted his head slightly, noticing someone approaching. A pink-haired girl with twin buns stood in front of him, smiling warmly. She introduced herself as a level 7 magic class student. She told him she had watched his prelims, and saw how he managed to kill so many magic-horned rabbits. She said he must be very amazing and politely asked if she could team up with him. Feng listened calmly. In his thoughts, he noted that a level 7 student was definitely strong enough to solo the dungeon. He thought that if he were still just a farmer class, he would happily accept such an invitation, but his necromancer abilities absolutely could not be exposed, so he needed to avoid teaming up. He rubbed the back of his head with a relaxed smile, and told her he preferred acting alone, gently refusing her offer. Hearing that, the girl kept her pleasant expression and wished him a smooth clear. She then turned and walked away in her red heels. Feng also walked off in the opposite direction, ready to face the mission alone. He went to that pink-haired instructor and leaned over the counter. When she heard that he wanted to go alone, she told him that this dungeon's difficulty wasn't low, but Feng said it was fine, and asked her to give him the mission directly. Next she handed him a scroll. As she did, she guessed that he wanted to solo the dungeon for its special solo reward, the Black Bear Gallbladder. She explained that the reward was a huge boost for low-level students like him, but warned that he still needed to understand his limits. Feng accepted the scroll with a small smile and thanked her for the reminder. The scene then shifted outside the Magic Horned Beast Lair dungeon. A massive portal shaped with jagged bone-like structures swirled with bright blue energy. Several academy staff members stood guard in front of it. Feng walked toward them. One staff member stepped forward and asked where his teammates were, but Feng replied that it was just him. Hearing that, both staff members looked at him with concern. One of them told him that a level 5 dungeon was too dangerous for a single person, and advised him to find teammates before entering. But Feng held the rolled mission scroll in his hand, and looked straight ahead. He calmly told the examiners that the rules allowed a solo entry. The 2 staff members standing near the dungeon gate whispered to each other. One of them guessed that Feng probably wanted the solo reward, the Black Bear Gallbladder. The other said that Feng had guts, but he should first think about whether he had the strength for it. Left with no choice, they let him go. As the glowing entrance activated, one examiner looked at him again and softly wished him good luck. Inside the dungeon, there was a huge cavern filled with countless round eggs of different colors, scattered across the rocky ground and piled between jagged walls. A path led deeper into the lair. Feng walked forward as the blue energy light of the dungeon entrance disappeared behind him. He stepped inside with a calm expression. Immediately, 2 lizard-like monsters with long tongues crawled toward him from the front. He looked at them quietly, and thought to himself that level 3 and level 4 monsters were no threat to him now that he was level 6. Feng summoned his undead, who immediately rushed with flashes of blue and purple energy, and killed those 2 lizard monsters. But suddenly, more monsters rushed toward him. He looked around at their growing numbers and sighed internally. The manual had warned that the dungeon contained many monsters, but seeing this amount in front of him felt like far too many. Feng stared at a massive cave filled with countless glowing red eyes peeking through the darkness. Lizard monster eggs covered the floor and walls around him. He looked at the sight calmly and said that this was a perfect time to try the new summoning method. A bright surge of purple lightning burst around him as he raised his hand and activated his skill, Undead Summoning. The lightning twisted through the air as monstrous shapes began forming. Moments later, those two lizards who were killed by Feng's undead before turned into lizard undead and appeared before him. Their bodies glowed with blue flames, their forms flickering like shadows as they waited for orders. Standing confidently, Feng pointed forward and commanded them to charge. From afar, the undead rushed out like a storm. Blue and purple energy streaks filled the entire passage, shaking the surroundings. Behind Fen, his two humanoid undead stood on the rocks, watching the advance. Watching those lizard undeads, Fen realized that beast-type undead kept some traits from when they were alive. They were aggressive but had low intelligence and could only follow simple commands. Fen observed them quietly. He noted that they consumed less magic power than others, but he wondered if they could do small chores like carrying water as well as fighting. Feng then sent his humanoid undead too. Those humanoid undead rushed forward, leaving trails of blue and purple light behind them. Both moved with sharp, deadly energy. The purple undead took out his long swords and struck first, swinging his long sword through the air. Powerful purple lightning wrapped around him as he slashed at the flying creatures in front of him. His attack scattered feathers and light everywhere. The blue humanoid undead formed hand signs and cast a spell. Blue energy gathered around him as countless glowing projectiles shot forward like energy balls, trapping those flying bird-like monsters. Watching those humanoid undead, Fern realized that they had higher wisdom. They could use the skills they had when they were alive and fought with more flexibility. Feng smiled with his hands on his hips, thinking that in the future, he could let them handle chores like weeding and fertilizing the fields. By now, Feng's lizard undead had finished killing. Feng raised his hand and used his undead summon skill again. Sharp spear-like streams of magic shot outward as several lizard-shaped monsters' dead bodies blasted with necromancy energy. Suddenly, a bright system window appeared in front of him. It displayed a message saying he had leveled up to level 7. Now behind him, many lizard and bird undead emerged. Their bodies burned with blue flame, and their eyes glowed sharply as they floated around him. Fawn looked calm, and simply said that the efficiency was not bad. Feng then walked forward through the tunnel, and reached a large chamber. Feng was amazed to see that he had reached the boss room in just half an hour. Suddenly, a loud metallic crack echoed as thick chains snapped apart. The ground shook as a giant bear-like monster came out of that massive cave. Its eyes glowed white, and chains still hung from its body while it roared across the chamber. Feng looked at the boss with a sharp expression. He said that since this was the boss, it was perfect for testing overall combat power. He called for all his undead to come out. All of Feng's humanoid and beast undead appeared behind him. Energy swirled around all of them as they lined up at his command. Feng then issued his orders. He told He Xiao to handle the frontal containment. He told Yue Ye to curse and weaken the boss. He instructed the other undead units to attack the boss's joints and its eyes. On his command, all of his undead charged at the giant bear monster standing in front of him. They continuously attacked across its fur as it struggled and roared. In front of it, Fen sat calmly on a mat, a small snack box and his backpack beside him, as if he were having a quiet break while the battle raged. He watched the ongoing fight and noted that the coordination of his undead was getting smoother. He was eating grapes, and system notification points popped up saying his magic power had recovered by 666 points, and it kept increasing as he ate more and more grapes. Then Feng's purple undead lunged at the chained boss. The boss monster swung its claws, but it did no damage to the purple undead, and it got closer to the boss. The purple undead collected huge amounts of lightning energy in his hand, and punched the boss monster. His punch was so powerful that the whole ground exploded with a huge explosion. It was a massive burst of energy that swallowed the monster in blinding light. Immediately a system notification appeared in front of Feng showing that he had leveled up again, and became level 8. Just as the bear monster died, a pile of glowing reward pouches appeared on the ground, shining with warm golden light. Feng immediately crouched down and examined one of the rewards in his hand. It was a strange red organ floating above his palm. Looking at it, he frowned in disappointment. He commented that the reward only increased his constitution by 10 points. To him, that was useless. Nowhere near the improvement he could get from the supercrops he grew himself. But suddenly another system notification popped in front of him. It stated that the system was calculating the dungeon rewards. It confirmed his current classes, Farmer and Necromancer, and would distribute rewards for both. Immediately, 2 golden chests emerged before him. glowing with brilliant light. Feng was shocked to see them and realized that the dungeon settlement had actually given him 2 sets of rewards. He wondered if it was because he had dual classes. Then a sudden idea flashed through his mind, and a confident smile formed on his face. He said that if dungeon settlements could give double rewards, then there might also be a way to manipulate the crops he planted to receive even more benefits. Then after clearing the dungeon, Feng left the dungeon. As he walked out, everyone there, all the hunters, were shocked to see him. One of them muttered in shock, asking if he had really finished the dungeon alone. 2 of the hunters whispered among themselves, their voices filled with doubt. One shouted that it was impossible. Everyone knew how dangerous the inside of that cave was. There was no way he had cleared it alone. He claimed that Feng must have hidden inside just to save face and never gone deeper. Another hunter added that it didn't make sense. His clothes were spotless. There was no way someone that clean had fought through a swarm of magic beasts. But Feng didn't care what they said. He went to the mission center and handed over the mission scroll to that pink-haired teacher, saying he was there to hand in the mission. The pink-haired teacher checked the dungeon scroll in her hands, and a green confirmation mark appeared on the screen, confirming that he had completed the mission. Seeing that, the pink-haired teacher's eyes widened in shock. She couldn't believe that he had actually passed, and that he had done it completely solo. Feng smiled softly. His expression remained composed, confident, and quietly satisfied with his achievement. Inside the academy's mission hall, the pink-haired instructor took the mission completion scroll from Feng. Her expression was calm yet serious as she spoke to Feng standing across from her. She said she would submit the scroll to the academic affairs office but warned him that clearing a dungeon alone was still far too reckless. She added that if a freshman were to die in a dungeon right after entering the school, it would become a serious problem. Feng listened quietly, his usual composed smile returning. He nodded and replied respectfully that he understood and thanked her for the reminder. The instructor adjusted her glasses and smiled softly. She told him that the final instructor interview would soon begin in the academy auditorium and advised him to take some rest before then. Feng nodded again and turned away, walking down the bright hallway with his hands in his pockets. Behind the glass walls, a few upperclassmen noticed him leaving. They whispered among themselves, watching curiously as he disappeared around the corner. Seeing those upperclassmen watching Feng, the pink-haired instructor sighed lightly and pushed up her glasses again. She thought to herself that she hoped this experience would teach Feng a lesson. Being too bold or impulsive in the academy could easily lead to trouble. Outside, Feng walked through the academy's forest path. Sunlight streamed through the tall trees as a faint light barrier shimmered between the woods. Feng walked quietly through the forest path when he suddenly sensed something behind him. His eyes narrowed slightly as he realized that someone was following him. Behind the trees, a group of 3 boys hid awkwardly, each holding a cloth in front of themselves as they tried to stay concealed. Feng kept walking forward, lifting his hand casually as a faint purple magic circle appeared around his fingers. A little farther back, the 3 boys whispered nervously among themselves. One of them frowned and said that since Feng could clear a dungeon alone, his strength must not be simple. He worried they might mess up. Another one waved it off. He said that no matter how strong Feng was, he was still under level 10, so his strength had limits. The third added that Feng had just finished a dungeon, so his energy consumption must be high. None of them had seen him recover yet. Their confidence slowly returned. One of them smirked and said they would crush him with numbers. Another reminded the group how badly they wanted the demon bear gall that increased stamina by 10. When they saw Feng walking away, one of them urged the others to hurry and catch him. They shouted at him from behind, calling out, "Hey, you farmer, stand still!" Feng stopped and turned his head slightly. With a calm expression, he asked if they were shouting at him. The group stepped forward with aggressive confidence, surrounding him. One of them mocked him, asking if he wasn't afraid of bursting from taking so many rewards by himself. Another insisted he must have gotten lucky inside the dungeon and found something valuable by accident. He demanded that Feng hand over the demon bear gall and the skill scroll. All of them flared their combat energy, their bodies glowing with blue light. One boy pointed at him and warned that if he didn't act sensibly, they would show him the true power of a combat class. Meanwhile, Falm stood still, facing them quietly. Falm looked at the group surrounding him and asked calmly why, out of so many examinees, they had chosen him. One of the boys stepped forward, pointing at him with an exaggerated expression. He asked if Falm really didn't know the reason, or if he was pretending. Another student explained that the exclusive reward for a solo dungeon clear, the demon bear gall, was a valuable item that added 10 stamina. He said that something so good was not something a farmer like him should be holding.